Hello, everyone. Russ of Aquarimax Pets here with several guests, two of them human. So we've got Hissy Fit, the pet therapy and rescue channel, and Adriel is here as the assistant Hissy Fitter. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much
Hi.
for having us on your show.
Oh yeah, I thought it was a really cool idea when I heard what you're doing. And tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that the general idea is that um, you you have several missions, but one of those missions is to find snakes that need homes and find people who need emotional support animals, specifically snakes, and you match them.
That is the eventual goal, yes.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I love
We
that the name fits that too. The name fits perfectly.
Adriel came up with the name.
That is cool. I love it.
Yeah. I'm a licensed professional counselor here in Texas, and I've been counseling mostly trauma counseling for over 20 years.
Hmm.
And I have been wanting, and I actually got my bachelor's in agricultural journalism. So I want to kind of combine those two now and explore the world of pet therapy. And yeah, I got the idea actually from um, a few organizations that help veterans match up with emotional support animals, usually dogs.
Hmm.
And they matched them up, and I thought, so many there's just this wonderful group of people such as yourself who love exotic animals and love snakes and amphibians and other exotic animals. So I thought it would be great if we could match those who need good homes with people who really need good emotional support animals. Because, as you know, dogs are not for everybody.
Right.
So,
Right. And I love that it's you can find a way to reach people who need a different option, who are going to respond best to a different option.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I've noticed that. I don't know what you think, Russ, because I know you have snakes as well. But I've
Mhm.
really noticed that for people who are comfortable with snakes, that's there's a real mindfulness in handling them.
Oh
And
yes.
I've been gearing up to do a study on how much somebody's blood pressure drops when they handle snakes, because especially with someone like Ray here, who is actually a foster of ours that we're fostering for a friend who may be getting him back, may not be, we're not sure, because she's in a long-term rehab right now and getting herself on the ground. But yeah, he's so slow moving, and this is a love of a snake. He just loves everybody. And actually, I'm not sure of the gender, so we need to get we need to see if he's male or female. I'm actually thinking that he's female, but the owner called him Ray and thinks he's male, so we go with it. Um, but he's just got such a great personality, and like I said, he's just slow moving. And whenever I handle him, my stress level just goes down immediately.
Yeah, I totally understand that. That's me with snakes as well. When I handle snakes, they're one of the most animals that helps me get into a peaceful place.
Mm.
Um, one of the best for that for sure. That is
Is there a particular species that, or breed? What am I saying? Of
I
snakes that particularly you enjoy handling for that reduction of stress?
well, I think it kind of depends on what sort of what sort of support I need, I suppose, because I think some snakes are very active and interesting, and they'll draw your mental energy that way towards them, and you'll kind of focus on them and not focus on whatever might be bothering you. And then you have other snakes that are very just, I guess I always say they're kind of zen. They just kind of relax, and they bring you to that relaxing space emotionally. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for. I've noticed that things like ball pythons, a lot of them tend to be really relaxed, and then they'll grip, and the grip is kind of like a reassuring sort of hug kind of feeling. Other pythons and boas and other constrictors can be like that too. We have a corn snake that will do that, kind of wrap around us
Oh,
and hold on a little tighter, and it feels good, and kind of feels reassuring. So there's that. Garter snakes don't really wrap around as much, but they're active and they're interesting. They're always on the move, and they'll always draw your attention and your focus so that you can be where the snake is, and then you're not in your head in a bad place anymore.
One of the things that we're looking at, as far as a gross generality, of course, is that the slower moving snakes like ball pythons and even hognose boa constrictors are really good for anxiety
Mm-hmm.
and being overwhelmed, and that faster moving snakes, more playful snakes like garter snakes, some rat snakes are probably better for depression
Mm-hmm.
because they draw you out of your own mind.
So that goes right along with what I was saying. I guess I was sort of, yeah, that's cool. We're on the same page there. That's cool. I like it.
oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
found that really every snake that I've handled, you get something, and every species is a little different, but some species have a lot of similarities with others. But yeah, it's all good stuff.
Yeah, and it's really fascinating that you mentioned the weight too, Russ, because are you tracking me? You're so cute. Like right now, Ray's got a really good grip on me, and it feels like what I use with people who on the spectrum, who or even other neurodivergent clients who find a weighted blanket
Ah,
comforting or a weighted pillow. We even have, weighted stuffed animals. Well, this is a real live weighted blanket, and there's something so comforting about having them, gently grip you. Like right now, it's not hurting at all. He's got a pretty good grip on me, but it feels very comforting.
right, exactly. It looks like we've
So,
got a comment from Tobias, who's also
hi,
been using snakes for
Tobias.
therapy for almost 10 years. That's fantastic. So
Wow,
another
that's
person on the same
wonderful,
page.
Tobias. Ah, I love hearing that. Does he say what kind of snake?
Let's see. We'll look through here. Use them to help children with ADD and ADHD type issues. Oh, that's
Oh,
cool. Let's
so
see.
he's in the field. That is great. Thank you for sharing, Tobias. That's great.
Cool. So what species, Tobias? What species do you use? Um, okay. So yeah. Oh, answered. Mostly ball pythons and boas.
Oh, that's awesome.
Excellent
Yeah,
stuff.
I'd love to connect with you, Tobias, on where you do that at. Sounds like you work with neurodivergent kiddos.
That's very cool.
Ah, that is awesome. Yeah, and right here we have Mazikeen.
Mazikeen is a hatchling bull snake. Uh,
She's a subadult by now.
oh yeah, yeah, subadult now. We purchased her earlier this year from Snake Discovery,
Awesome.
uh, and she is my personal favorite. Um, Now, I have not quite diagnosed autism spectrum disorder and a heck of a lot of anxiety. And I've actually found that for me personally, snakes like Mazikeen and some of the other rat snakes work best for that. So
Mhm.
it's not always just the super slow moving, but it's a good generality to work with.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think the personality of uh, bull snakes has always fascinated me. I think they've got a lot of it.
And such a
Yes.
beautiful scale.
Oh
Not
yeah.
just the pattern, but the keeling on the scales themselves.
Hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah. Oh, here we got a question. Aunt Sandy Skinks has a question about, do snakes squeeze because they're stressed? Do they sense the holder's stress? So what are your thoughts on that?
That's a really good question. Yeah. I um I think they squeeze because, obviously they want to hang on to what uh they like to anchor themselves.
Right.
Um but as far as sensing the stress, that's a good question. What do you think?
Um, I'm gonna try not to anthropomorphize too much, but I would say that if you have, say, a rapid pulse, high blood pressure, which is more than the snake is accustomed to, that the uncertainty might cause them to grip more to ensure that they have a safe hold. But I don't have any real data to back that up. That's just what I like to think.
Hmm.
What do you think, Russ?
Well,
You have more experience with animal behavior than we do.
I think it depends a lot on the species, uh, and to some degree on the individual snake and what they've been exposed to. Because if they are in a space where they're habituated to what's going on, they're going to be more relaxed. And if they're in a space where they're not habituated, they will tend to be more stressed. And any new stimuli that are going to be confusing for them can, and like you said, if somebody has a heart rate or something going on, or they're detecting different smells, or somebody's shaking or something like that, I think that can kind of set off some alarm bells, and then they have some uncertainty about what's going on. They're not sure, but so habituation has a lot to do with it. And individual species, like you were saying, I 100% agree. A lot of snakes are just holding on to because that makes them feel secure. That's what they're going to do in the wild when they're on a branch-like structure, and that's what we are. We're branch-like structures to them.
With the
Um,
benefit of being warm.
but yeah, we're like heated branch structures, so that's nice. And I do think that they can become very, very comfortable, and they can be gripping fairly tightly and be very, very comfortable. Um,
That's reassuring. Yeah, I don't know that they sense like dogs do. What is her name? Sorry, I can't hear.
oh, and Sandy Skinks.
Yeah, Aunt Cindy. I don't think they're as maybe as in tuned as say dogs are to um our personal emotions.
Hmm.
But I do absolutely believe that snakes and other reptiles and amphibians do recognize different people. They respond to the people differently than the people that they're used to and their owners a lot differently than they do a stranger.
Yes.
They've done studies where they they measure the patterns of energy of electromagnetic energy that even plants and trees give off as
Mhm.
different people approach them, and it's different for every person. So absolutely they
Yeah.
recognize, and I do think they form some sort of relationship even though it may not be the same as a mammalian pet.
Right. But there's something going on there, and my wife always mentions how with the garter snakes, since garter snakes do form uh, bonds with each other, social bonds with each other, and they've done studies on that, which is pretty cool because not all snakes, have that kind of social interaction with each other that continues outside of like a mating situation. Um, and some others do, but garters are one of those that have that social sort of bond that they're participating in, all the time. And so they'll form these bonds, and then even if they've been separated for a long time, they'll remember each other. And I do think that garter snakes seem to have something going on with that with people as well. They have the ability to recognize people and then form some kind of connection with them. My wife will say, "Yep, when someone else is holding the garter snakes, they're always looking over to you and like, oh, I want to go back to him." you know.
Aww.
That makes a lot of sense. Because if they're a communal species, so communal species within their limits are going to be more empathetic uh, to the degree that they can than non-communal species.
Right, right. It does make sense, and
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the reasons why we do something that we'll call various things. Sometimes we call it a snake circle or whatever, but we'll take all the garter snakes and hand garter snakes out, and then have everybody just hang out with one for a few minutes and then switch. So they're going to a new person. They're getting used to the fact that, oh, I'm going to be passed from hand to hand, and it's okay. Try to do that in a low stress situation so that the snakes become very socialized and comfortable with a variety of people and a variety of handling styles and variety of all the sorts of stimuli they're going to be subjected to when they deal with other people.
Ah, Russ, I admire especially your uh the black garter snakes
Oh
are
yes,
so beautiful.
they really
And
are.
that's a dream snake of mine is to get some garters. So,
Oh yes, and it really is hard to beat them. I'd been dreaming about melanistic garter snakes for a long time, and I'm so glad we finally were able to get some. So
I like the melanistic morphs too.
that's his
yes,
favorite.
yes, melanistic snakes are just beautiful. I used to work with an eastern indigo snake in a zoo,
Hmm.
and
Oh.
he was fantastic. He was gorgeous old. He was an old snake, very gentle as a kitten, and they get big, but very very gentle and friendly. And I just loved working with him. And of course, with that beautiful black color, I think I've been in love with black snakes since, and that was like you know eight-
Aw.
18 years ago or something like that. And ever since I've wanted black snakes.
Yeah. One of my dream snakes, when I can afford it and have the space for it, is a black pine snake.
Oh
So
yes.
I saw one on Clinch Reptiles, and I
Mhm.
thought that was amazing.
Yes, I got to handle that snake when I was down there,
Oh,
and,
did
and
you?
it was fantastic. Um,
Oh,
it's
I
a gorgeous,
bet.
gorgeous snake, and that is one of my favorite places to go, as you might imagine.
Yeah,
Every
we
time I go
we
down there.
we definitely want to try to book a time with him coming up.
Oh yes, yeah, it's definitely worth it, and it's. I just can't wait till the next time I get down there. It's so fun,
Oh, that is
and it's
wonderful.
from me. It's only about an hour and 15 minutes or so. It's
I
not
was
too
gonna say
far.
you don't live too far from him, do you?
No, not too far.
Oops, getting
Oh, we've got
caught
a
up.
question from Frank the Tank.
Oh, I
When I would,
love that. Frank the Tank.
when I would catch Decay's brown snakes around spring and summer, they would freak out and musk, and after 1 minute, they would completely calm down. Why is this the case? Stress, confusion. Good question. I think that there's something to be said for that. Um, when they give a stress response and the stress response doesn't result in the expected result of maybe us letting them go, there's really no reason to continue it. And the same thing will happen with wild garters and other snakes. I've had the same thing happen to me with a number of different snakes in the wild, and even non-socialized snakes in a captive situation. And that is one method just to get them to calm down, is to, when you have a snake that will freak out when it's handled, is just handle it long enough until it calms down and then set it down. And
Yeah.
it's basically showing them that calming down is the best way to get the result they want.
Yeah. Also, it's they do these panic responses because they think you're going to kill them. If
Right.
they do the panic response and then you don't kill them, then they suddenly feel like they're not going to be killed right now.
Right.
Oops.
And I think that's why it's such an effective method, because they begin to associate handling with, oh, no, nothing's going to happen. I'm okay.
Exactly. Sorry about that. The phone fell.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Technology works until it doesn't. And now it works again. So we're good.
What kind of snakes did Frank the Tank catch as a kid?
We were saying Decay's brown snakes.
Oh, that's great. How
Yeah.
fun.
Those are cool
And
little snakes. I've seen Emily and Ed's on Snake Discovery, the little group they have.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah, they
We
are.
need to get you on the build off, Russ.
A few people have said that. I think that would be a lot of fun if I could go do that. I'd get a
I
kick out of
think that'd be awesome. We're getting a couple new snakes out here.
it. Cool. Oh, Tobias just subbed to you. He mentioned that.
Oh, wonderful.
Welcome,
Thank you,
Tobias.
Tobias. Oh, I appreciate you subbing.
So let me introduce you to our Vietnamese Blue Beauty, Nagisa.
Ooh. What was the name?
Nagisa,
Nagisa.
named
Ah.
after a character from Assassination Classroom. And
Uh,
she is a little darty. If you can see it, she's a little ribboned right now, but she's not tail wagging. So she's a little concerned, but not panicked yet.
she's one that I think is a good example of an animal who, as an ESA, would be very good for watching.
Mhm.
We do handle her to get her used to it, get her socialized, and she's gotten a lot better there. She ribbons. Can you show them? She's
Let's
ribboning
see.
up.
Oh, yep, I can see.
Yep.
Now,
Yep, getting
personally, I
flattered.
think for the right person, she'd be great for calming down ADHD or anxiety through mindfulness,
Hmm.
just because you have to keep a good hold without squeezing,
Hmm.
and you have to pay attention.
So you're engaging enough of your mind that you're putting your mind somewhere else. Yeah, yeah, that
Yes.
makes sense.
Can you get her to where she's threading towards the camera?
Look at that gorgeous little face.
If
Now
she's
she's
isn't she
still green.
beautiful?
She's still green. She hasn't really shed into her blue yet, but she
That's
is
coming.
a gorgeous snake.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I love the fact that you get this from the front to the back. You get a whole spectrum of different
Mm-hmm.
patterns and shades. And
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she's switching now.
Oh, can you show? It's probably too high, baby. Yeah.
how's she doing?
Whenever it's so fun to watch her eat because
Mhm.
she'll get on a vine and I'll present her feeder to her and she'll reach down and grab it just from the vine. And then the whole time, I know that some people say it's only under stress, but that's not my experience. I've
Mhm.
I've been able to watch her when she doesn't know that I'm watching her, and she just wags that tail. And I think sometimes she's doing it right now. Obviously,
Interesting.
sometimes it's under
Oh,
stress.
there we go.
Um, it's so cute, but she does it when she's eating, and it kind of looks like
Yeah.
it kind of looks like uh uh she's just happy to be eating and wagging her
Mhm.
tail. It's
Yeah,
adorable.
I, it reminds me of my dart frogs when they're eating. They'll tap their toes.
Do they really?
Yeah, and I guess that's a common thing with dart frogs. They'll tap their toes as they're hunting, and it kind of reminds me of that. And I don't know if it's something similar or not, but it's totally reminds me of that.
Oh, that is cute. And then here is Karapika, Plains
Oh,
hognose snake, as you guys probably know.
yeah.
He is my daughter's snake and our first snake in our collective collection in our family. And he's full grown now. He's ready to breed, but his girlfriends are not quite
You're not quite
ready to
there yet.
breed yet.
Looks like he's got some decent size for a male.
He's a pretty good sized male, yeah. And he's albino. He's het for snow, so he's gonna be he's gonna be able to produce axanthic and albinos and snow. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah, he's a genetic powerhouse. So
Yeah. Definitely.
And he's got such a lovely personality. He never really went through a juvenile, you know, hissy phase.
Mhm.
He's just lovely.
So he's not accustomed to throwing hissy fits. He's just
No, he's not.
oh, that's
He's a
cool.
good program animal. He's just he doesn't mind being handled, and he's curious, and
Oh, I love
um,
that. It's you see quite the spectrum among plains hognoses. So it's nice
with
to
their
see one who's
personality. Yeah.
yes, yes. So it's nice to see one that's so relaxed. And just looks like he's curious and hey, what are we doing? This is cool.
Hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. And we have a couple more. Tequila and Margarita are his future girlfriends. And Tequila we got from Urban Dinos. And I have to blame uh I have to blame her or them for starting us off on that name streak. So
so
so thanks,
what
Jordan.
what is your male's name again?
This is Karapika,
Okay.
and that's from another anime.
Okay.
Um,
Hunter x Hunter.
yes, Hunter x Hunter, because of the pink eyes.
Okay.
Any members of your audience will recognize that name if they know Hunter x Hunter.
Somebody was saying something about the um, a few people mentioned some things about the anime names. They like
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah. I
Yeah.
can't keep up with all the comments, but I saw a couple things about that.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, Karapika has gorgeous pink eyes, just like Karapika from um,
Hunter.
Hunter. Yeah. Oh,
Yep, looks like you've got some fans here of Hunter
oh,
x Hunter.
that's great. I love it. And then I named Nagisa because blue hair, she'll end up having blue scales, and being beautiful but deadly. And
Ah,
she's
there you
not deadly, but she is sassy.
go. And she's deadly to prey in the wild, at least.
That's right. She is deadly to prey.
No, I think the only snake that's bitten me is Mazikeen when she
Mhm.
Hmm.
was still like really young, and it was more Velcro than teeth.
Oh yeah, yeah. When they're that little, that makes sense. Yeah,
I
I've
have
had.
it.
Oh, go ahead.
No, please go.
I was just going to say, my garters have occasionally tagged me when they meant to go for the food, which is why I use tongs. I don't feed them with my hands. But even then, when they're really excited, sometimes they've tried to grab me, but they don't hold on long, and it's never a serious thing. Of course, even with the biggest garter, she's like 40 inches long. When she holds on, it's not for
Wow.
long. She's a decent size for a garter snake.
Wow. What is her morph?
She's a she's a red sided, not the Cali red, but just a red sided.
Oh, those are beautiful.
Yeah, she's gorgeous, but she hasn't done that in a while. I think she's refined her technique and realized what's my hand and what isn't. So,
Don't want to bite the hand that feeds me.
yeah, exactly.
Because it's too big to eat.
That's probably the most important reason. Yes.
No, I love snakes, but I will admit I'm not super romantic about anthropomorphizing them.
Hmm.
Uh, they are what they are, and what they are is glorious. But they are not mammals, and they do not have the same social concept that most mammals put forth.
Right.
But they are still amazing creatures, beautiful animals.
They are,
You
and
know,
like what you said, they are that what they are, and what they are is glorious. It works really nicely.
yeah. As Clint said, I'm happy with all of those word choices.
Yes.
Um, one another thing that I'm really fascinated to explore is why such a pervasive fear of snakes?
Oh yes, we were going to
Um,
talk about that, weren't we?
yeah, and I- is it I I'm I'm wondering where the basis is for that. And I get different answers from everybody. I'm working with one um, delightful person who is very motivated to get over her fear of snakes, but does have a very deep fear of snakes that started with her grandmother, who um, is just very religious and um, sort of actually believes that evil spirits are represented by snakes. That's part of it. And then she also said the fact that they don't have legs really freaks her out.
Hmm.
So now, since I was a kid, I have found the way they move. That is one of the reasons why I am fascinated by them,
Right.
is because of the way they move. But it really freaks some people out. And I think that's why lizards may be a little bit more approachable than snakes for some people.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you're saying. I think that's true for a
I
lot of
mean,
people.
if you look at the history, the mythical history, even before the biblical concepts of the serpent in the garden, snakes have had a kind of a bad rap. Tiamat was represented as a serpent. Uh, oh my gosh, I know some more. Jormungandr is represented as a serpent, and he's part of the end of the world. Uh, and a lot of it, I think, is at least in some cases, the origins were from cold areas where snakes were rare.
Hmm.
And so,
Except for garters.
uh, so when they encountered them, it was in foreign lands where a crawling venomous thing is strange. And so that it went into their mythostructure. Like if you're from, oh my gosh, Greenland,
Hmm.
and you go down to Italy, then you're going to see things that you're not used to seeing,
Right.
or to Greece or something like that. Uh, and then you go to Australia, and then all bets are off.
That's true. Yeah, it's a little different experience there. Yeah.
So
And one thing that I think contributes to it, I think all of that makes sense. Another thing that contributes is that for humans, uh, on blinkless staring is something that constitutes a
Oh,
threat in our body language, typically, or some sort of problem at least. It's a negative situation. When someone stares at you, there's something wrong. And snakes seem to be staring at us even when they're not because they can't blink.
yeah,
Ross, I never thought about that one before. And that's not an answer I've gotten yet. I bet you're right. I bet that had something to do with it.
oh, it's definitely a part of it.
Yeah.
And then you've got the fact that they don't have shoulders. How much do we base our observation on how someone holds their shoulders,
Right.
or how they tilt their head, or any number of things for how they're standing? With a snake, they're almost completely unpredictable unless you really get good at predicting them.
Right. Snakes have their own body language and you can learn to read it, but it's not by comparing it to human body language. It's very different.
Yeah, and talk about we happen to be haunt actors too as a hobby. And talk about a jump scare. Snakes are experts at the scare when they really want to be.
That's
I
true.
mean, they're excellent at it. So that sudden strike, and of course, there's just the obvious answer of, well, I don't know about you, Russ, and I don't know about the folks listening in. I'd love to hear from you guys on this question, but when I was growing up, I was told because I would run around in the woods, barefoot and everything, but I was told if you see a snake, avoid it because it might be venomous.
Mhm.
And So I was just told to assume all snakes are going to bite me and kill me.
Right, right.
So
A lot of it has to do with just these traditions that are just wrong. They get passed on. I remember I was telling someone from a Southeast Asian culture recently. She was telling me uh, this kind of snake, and showed me a picture of a snake and said, "This kind of snake is very dangerous. If it bites you, it will kill you." And it was a blind snake, tiny blind snake. And I said,
really,
"There are no tiny blind snakes that are medically significant at all." And it took a while to convince her. But yeah, there are a lot of stories about that. Snakes that are completely innocuous that get a bad rap just because some snakes are venomous, and so it just kind of rubs off, I guess. Guilty by
I guess
association.
Bateson's mimicry works even with humans.
Yeah, yeah. And even when the snakes aren't particularly similar to the venomous snakes, but just the fact that they have that shape is enough to convince people sometimes.
Hmm. Oh, that's a good point. That is a very good point. But yeah, Karapika's never bit. Now sometimes he'll get a little hissy and flatten out in the pancake way. Usually when he's mad at a feeder that I'm trying to give him for some reason. He gets mad at it and then starts chomping on it. So
that's funny.
I don't know why. But how, I mean, look at that face.
I know that is such a beautiful little face. That is. Well, I was going to do a solo layout on it. There we go.
Look at that. How
I
can
love
you
their little
despise?
upturned noses.
Uh-huh. They're just so adorable. And their little chubby cheeks.
Yeah, yeah.
And they have this habit of burrowing into you. And we're talking about how pleasant interacting with snakes can be and how relaxing and how mindful it can be. That's very endearing. I mean, I can rationally know that they're doing that because they like to burrow and they're trying to, get in somewhere where they can hide. I don't care. It just looks like they're snuggling with me and I'll take it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
It's just adorable.
It is.
He is so relaxed, man.
I love that. I I've I've had limited experience handling hognose snakes, and I really get a kick out of them, but I haven't. I don't know if I've seen one that relaxed.
He is. He's just we handle him not a lot, but he's probably one of our most handled snakes.
Hmm.
And yeah, he's so chill about it. In fact, one of the one of the people I'm working with on desensitizing them to snakes because they're motivated to get over their fear. The one snake she's been able to handle is Karapika because he's
Nice.
just such a love and so non-threatening, and he just doesn't care. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
great. And when you've done that first step, and they're handling at least one, that really is a huge step.
it is. It is. And I'm really proud of her because like I said, I don't ever of course force this on anybody. It's all about their own motivation, but like I said, she's very highly motivated and we're talking about, different traumas that she's had, sort of revolving snakes and um just other traumas and how they're connected and yeah, it's going really well. She's doing really well. She's Our next one is going to be Ray
Hmm.
because she loves Ray and she's touched Ray, but she's never held Ray. So that'll
Hasn't
be the
handled
next
it.
step. Hmm.
Cool. Yeah. One thing that I think ties into all of this too is that so many people, not everyone, but so many people who have fear of snakes can turn that around very quickly if they know a little bit more about what's going on. And I've
Uh,
seen that so many times when I'm doing presentations or something like that, and someone at the beginning they're shaking in the back of the room, and then by the end of it they've touched a snake and they come up at the end and say, "Thank you. I'm so glad that I did that, and I feel so much better."
Aww.
I have
I bet that
someone
was
I work
so
with,
validating. Oops, sorry.
someone I work with who is terrified of snakes. She sees a snake, she crosses the street. Um, and she's a nice lady, and she likes the looks of them, but she doesn't want anywhere near them. And over a few months of talking to her, educating, she's less afraid of snakes than she was.
Good. That's awesome.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it really makes a difference.
wonderful. You've
And
helped her with that.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome, Adriel.
that
And
is.
I have to point out that she's doing great.
She looks like
I've
she's just
never
chilling.
seen Nagisa that relaxed before. He's really good. His energy, if they do pick up on her energy, because I wonder that too. Um, Cindy, yeah. But look at her. She's just so chill.
well,
Yeah,
she has been,
just
threading and moving and rattling and riveting, and she's okay. You
yeah.
had a questioner earlier talking about the decal or the snakes that he'd pick
Decays.
up.
Oh,
Hmm.
the decays brown snakes. Yeah,
Yeah, and they'd musk, and then they'd be fine. And we talked about that. Once they realize you're not going to hurt them, they don't panic anymore.
right, right,
It- and so she's realized she's not going to be hurt, and
right.
she's not panicked anymore.
And I
And
think
I
that
think,
goes both ways too. Oh, go ahead.
well, I think it's really important, it's the old Pavlovian conditioning. It works with snakes as well as it works with dogs as well as it works with kids. And keeping in mind their stress level, what I've done with her is when she is hissy, then and she's kind of striky, um, I will pick her up on purpose so that she doesn't learn, okay, this is effective and it works.
Right,
This behavior that is negative for our interaction with her. So that training of, and if we're handling her and she does, try to strike out a little bit, she's never tagged, but she'll strike out. Then we'll hold her a little bit more to let her know that's not going to be what gets you to go back in.
right,
Being calm is what can get you to go back in.
right. And that was part of what Clint did to socialize and habituate his black pine snake too.
Yes,
Same
That's
idea.
right.
that's where we learned about that
You
for snakes
mentioned that.
specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Awesome.
does work. It's very effective. And I was going to say that it's funny to think about it, but it kind of goes the same way in that once snakes realize we're not going to hurt them, that we're not out to get them, they'll come down. And that can be a lot of what goes on with snakes too. Like here, when we go hiking in the mountains here, there are a decent number of rattlesnakes. It's not uncommon to encounter them in the spring and the fall, especially. And um, when I go hiking with people who aren't used to it or don't know, I just tell them, okay, well, if you watch where you're going and you stay on the trail and you don't, you're not looking at your phone when you should be looking at the trail, you're going to be fine. The garter snakes, the rattlesnakes are not out to get you. They might be crossing the trail, but they're not out to get you. If you leave them alone, they'll leave you alone. Most people who are bitten by rattlesnakes are attacking the rattlesnakes. That's why they're bitten.
Right, and isn't it? I know the ranchers around here are telling me this. I don't know how true it is, but they're saying that the rattlesnakes are actually we've conditioned them not to rattle
Mm-hmm.
because the ones who are rattling are getting killed and aren't getting to produce, and so the ones that aren't rattling are producing because we're conditioning them not to rattle.
I've heard about that, and it's fascinating and kind of sad and kind of scary. But yeah, it rattles
That,
work really well to keep bison from stepping on you, but with humans, it's not quite the same way.
No, oh, you rattled. That means I'm gonna go. Not I or him, but some humans think, okay, I've got to get rid of this threat to my family, not realizing if you don't disturb the threat, then they're not a threat to you.
Right,
So,
right,
one of the
and
things that occurs to me sometimes when handling snakes is one of the differences between, or similarities and differences between snakes and people.
hmm
And that is that much like snakes, people, if you don't hurt them, then even when they're afraid, eventually they'll realize you're not going to hurt them.
yeah.
but one of the things in which humans differentiate from snakes is that people frequently convince ourselves that they're just going to hurt us later.
That is so true.
True enough. That seems to be one of the differences. But yes, we're able to convince ourselves of something bad is going to happen, even when there's no evidence it's going to happen.
Like a self-fulfilled prophecy.
Yes. Well,
Now
we've got
this
a.
little girl. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, oh, I was just gonna see. There's a super chat here from Dope Critters. Thank you, Dope Critters.
Oh,
That is
yay!
awesome. Appreciate it. Saying there's a study suggests that phobias could be passed down genetically in mice. Mice that were shocked when they see the color red had offspring that feared the color red. Interesting.
Really?
Are they theorizing a memory RNA concept, or how is it transmitted down?
I don't know. I would like to see
I
that study and
know.
find out more about it. I mean, uh, it's interesting how people talk about inborn or instinctual fears, and it would just. I don't think we know as much as we need to know about things like that. So interesting.
Well, there are studies that
Wow.
show that DNA can be changed by mentally. They're not like large things,
Right.
but small things can affect DNA. Part of
Yeah.
that is how memory works.
So epigenetics
So
could have some role in it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Could be.
You know, that's fascinating, Dave. I'd love to get a link to that article, if you can, or I can look it up too. But I've always wondered about that. I mean, we know already that there's some genetic link for um, disorders like anxiety, like depression, bipolar disorder. There's a definite genetic component. So why wouldn't that be true for phobias?
Right. Right. It makes sense that it could be.
Hmm?
I
So
can
you were about
imagine
to.
it
Oh,
would be
go
kind of
ahead.
intuitive because it is something specific. But I would also want to look at, if I were doing that research, uh, whether predilection for phobia is part of
Ah,
a genetic passage and how that applies to genetic memory.
that's an interesting point. Yeah, I would like to know more about that too.
Well, I know with like growing up, I had great parents. Mom tended to be a little bit more. They were both really intelligent. She just tended to be a little bit more um, superstitious, and so she had a couple of fears that my dad didn't want passing on to me, and so he would explain to me scientifically what was going on. And I think that's why I didn't develop some of the fears that my mom had, like with lightning, with rats, and with snakes,
Hmm.
because he would just gently sit me down and explain scientifically what was going on. So it'd be interesting to see the nature versus nurture on that,
Yeah,
environment versus genetics.
definitely.
I'm not sure. The more I hear about it, the more I hear about epigenetics, the more I hear about the concepts in genetic memory. I'm not sure there's that much difference between nature and nurture.
Maybe it's harder to separate them than we've thought.
Yeah,
They work in concert for
exactly.
sure.
That does make sense. Who's this little
Now,
creature, this beauty?
this little beauty is actually from Don Soderberg
Hmm.
from South Mountain Reptiles, who developed, among other morphs, the palmetto morph.
Yeah.
And we've gotten to luckily become friends with him. He's so delightful to talk to. I just love him so much. But he doesn't live too far from here, and this little girl is Jubilee, and she is a corn snake who would look wild type, except for you can tell she's a little bit more white sided
Hmm.
in her patterns, if that's the correct way to say it. And she's het palmetto.
Oh, nice.
So, um, and I've had her since she was a hatchling, and of course she's a subadult now, and she's growing up pretty good. She's doing great, and I have another uh, snake that I got from Dawn that we got from Dawn that we've called Colonel Flint's because we're going with the corn theme.
Yes.
Jubilee is a kind of corn, the sweet corn, and then
Hmm.
Flint's is another name for Indian corn.
Okay.
And so, yeah, Colonel Flint's. We can't show you him because he's in quarantine right now, but he has the bug eyes.
Oh yeah.
He is so cute. So yeah, this
I
is
added the
Jubilee.
Colonel because I'm a GI Joe fan.
Got it. I like it. It's a nice touch there because then you get the double play on words. I like it.
The
Nicely
double
done.
entendre. Yes, thank you. Yeah. So Jubilee and has those lovely little kernel pattern down her belly.
Yes, I love that. I feel like I could easily get way too many corn snakes really easily because they're so gorgeous. We just have
What?
one, and I love ours, and it's a hypomelanistic. But I
Ooh.
just
So you love the melanistic just as much as he does.
Yeah.
well, this one's a hypomelanistic, so
Oh, okay. So
he
what
doesn't have
is?
much dark color at all. He's got three dark
Oh,
colors, and but
okay.
I do love melanistics, but I don't think they have any melanistic corn snakes.
No, they don't have them with bull snakes either.
Mm-mm. It's kind of too bad. Someone was asking about the black snake. I think it was imaginary eye. Yeah. My black snakes are garter snakes. There are plenty of black snakes that aren't, but I do have melanistic garters. Those are the only black snakes I have. But yeah. So Aunt Cindy says another question about matching snakes to people who want an emotional support animal.
Hmm.
So should we talk about that for a minute?
I would love to. What is your question?
It's how do you match rescued snakes to those who want an emotional support animal, or do you keep the snakes yourselves and let clients interact with them?
Yeah. So our plan is to definitely vet them um, and to really get to know the snake first, as well as getting to know the client first and what their needs are.
Mhm.
Um, and you wanted to add something?
Yeah, and keeping in mind, right now, this is our goal, not something we can do right now. But a loose leaf plan is to use the connections we make through Hissy Fit at the channel to make a network of people who can foster snakes
Mhm.
and report on their behaviors and general attitudes, make sure they're eating well, and then as people are looking for an emotional support animal, um, interview them, talk to them, have a checklist of what their issue is, what their condition is, and what they're looking for an emotional support from, and what they're looking for from an emotional support animal,
Yeah.
and match that to the reports we get from the fosters of the behaviors of the snake.
Yeah.
Because
That.
right now we're starting to form a network of fosters.
Mhm.
We have someone in Ohio, and hopefully we'll get some people locally that can foster since we don't have a facility right now. But take in rescues, get them healthy, um, vet them, and then yeah, Cindy, I think that's a great idea. Is let the clients, interact with the different snakes, um,
That
and
would
get to
be
know them.
more after we have a facility,
Right.
which is a future dream, but not something that we have a direct plan for right now.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, let them interact with different kinds of snakes um, and match up, what they're looking for and what would be best for them by talking with them. Since I am, licensed professional counselor and, I'm a master's degree. I've been in this field for a long time. Then I can help talk with them and suss out what's going to be best for the client as well as for the animal because
That makes a lot of sense.
obviously yeah different factors that go into caring for an animal like Clint goes through, that's really important to consider as well.
Right.
So,
Right. There are
yeah.
just so many factors to consider. So making sure it's a good match on both sides makes a lot of sense.
Yes, absolutely. And also, I think it's really important to address not shaming people for rehoming animals. Um, because it's something with I've done some volunteer work with adopting mammals, and what I found with some people in shelters, you know, there's a lot of shaming that can go on with people needing to rehome an animal, and sometimes life changes, health changes, monetary status changes. There's just a lot of reasons why somebody might need to rehome an animal.
Yeah.
Um, and I think if we shame people for that, they're more likely not to do the proper thing.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of truth to that. I think people should go into, a pet keeping situation with the idea that I need to provide for this animal. But sometimes the best way to provide for that animal is to rehome
Oh, so well said. Sometimes that is the best way.
it. Hmm.
Absolutely. Of course, put a lot of thought into it. Don't just impulsively buy.
Right.
Um, but no one's perfect and no one can predict the future exactly. So when they do need to rehome, then let's make it as pleasant an experience as possible because it's hard
Exactly.
to give up a pet.
It is. And when that's the most responsible thing to do, uh, that's great. And it doesn't always make it easy. Like you said, it can be very hard to do, even though you know it's the right thing in some cases.
Absolutely. So yeah, like Adriel said, we are we are starting slow.
Hmm.
We, like I said, we have two foster animals that might be going back to the original owner, might not be, but it's definitely our dream to get a network of foster homes to get in people involved, and hopefully, eventually have the funding where we can provide the if the foster home can care for them, we can help with uh, from the Hissy Fit nonprofit because we are applying for a nonprofit status.
Hmm.
Um, to help them with enclosures, feeding, vet bills, and then hopefully the channel will help put out there, hey, these are the animals that do need adopting. Talk to us about your emotional support animal needs and see how we can match you up to the right one.
Yeah.
Uh, Tobias had a question, it looked like, where Hissy Fit is based out of.
Yeah.
We're located in Texas,
Okay.
uh, generally in the Austin area.
Hmm.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I've used to have a lot of family in Texas and would go down there in the summers and really enjoyed my time down in Texas.
Even though it was in the summer.
Yeah, especially because it was in the summer. I was out chasing box turtles and all that stuff. My
Yeah,
grandma used to live on a big ranch down
Texas
there.
in the
And
summer is one of the best places for reptiles.
yeah,
I
it
think
was
we're about the
fantastic.
closest thing you can get to the Australian outback or parts of southern Africa.
Yeah, the reptile density just blew me away when I was down there. I
Oh,
enjoyed
I
it.
bet you. So that it's part of why you developed the love of them that you have now.
Yeah, I started really, really young. The first time I remember having an experience with a snake, I was about 5, I think, and found one in my another grandmother's front yard and just fell in love with it. So
Oh, how cool. Yeah, my dad was from Wisconsin, was born there, and he said that he one day took a snow shovel and threw it over his shoulder and walked south until somebody said, "What is that thing?" And he said, "Okay, I'm staying here."
oh, that's great.
I'm pretty sure he was lying.
What?
I'm pretty sure he was lying about that.
Yeah, I think it was just a euphemism story colorfully show that he just didn't like the cold.
Yes, it's very illustrative. It's perfect.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Well, we
I'm
are
just
just about,
impressed at how well she's done.
I'm sorry to say that we're just about out of time. Um, I've enjoyed talking with you both. I think this has been great. And I want to give you a chance if there's anything else you'd like to say that hasn't been said yet before we close up.
Well, one of my main things is to be your own safe place, and I've added and your pets.
Hmm.
And what Adrielle likes to say is,
Don't throw a hissy fit.
Oh, I love it, and I love that idea of being your own safe place and yet expanding that to include your pets in that circle.
Mhm.
Yeah, both very good phrases to live by.
Thank you, Russ. It's been so delightful talking with you.
Oh, it's been great talking to you both. I'm glad that we did this, and sometime we should have you back.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'd love that. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of your channel, and you've you've helped me with. I know we got to go, but you've helped me with learning how to care for isopods. We just got new isopods, like I told you, and he's been uh, overcoming his fear of crawly things in the house. So
Cool.
it's been very wonderful to have your channel to go by.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. That's what I love to hear. It helps me want to keep going.
Good, please do. You're an invaluable resource.
Well, thank you, and I really appreciate what you two are doing. I think this is you have an excellent idea, and I'm glad that you're starting to put this to you're working on this goal and this dream, and I think you're going to help a lot of people.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank
think
you
so,
so
too.
much.
and thank you for joining us, everyone, and have a good one.
Bye.